I think he just started snoring. He is so sweet. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 179, yes, of the Love in Stitches podcast. It is a cloudy day here in New York City. We just spent the last 9 days in Tennessee visiting my family, going to my brother's wedding, working from there. And so coming back here to the Northeast was a little bit of a shock because it has been kind of chilly and windy. I mean, not super cold. It's like in the 50s, but it's May now. So I feel like the spring weather should be really coming out in full force. And growing up in Tennessee and then living in Texas for 7 years, spring to me means something different still, like in my mind. But I kind of like a cooler spring because I can still wear lots of hand knits and things and not walk around super sweaty because that is terrible. I am wearing a t-shirt from McKinney Knittery in Texas that says "Lovin' It Today." It's one of my most comfortable t-shirts. I love it so, so much. Well, since it's been, about 8 days, I think, since I last filmed a podcast, I have lots of knitting progress to show you. I even have, let me see, a finished object and a new project. So why don't we just dive right in? I think the key to getting a toaster to be in the background of the podcast is to bait him with a blanket. So I like put down his blanket so he could come lay on top of it. And then I put this blanket on top of him. This is my granny stripe blanket, by the way, that I finished in January of this year. Okay, but let's talk about more recent projects. I have a new FO. I just finished this last week in the month of April, and it is my Musselburgh hat. So this is the Musselburgh by Isolde Teague. This is my 6th one, I think, either 6 or 7, but it is maybe the 4th or 5th that I've made for myself. I can't keep track. I love making these things. I think they're the best project because they're so portable. They use up a ton of yarn. If you want to use a full skein of a sock yarn that you have or something that's a little too delicate for socks, it is so perfect for that. And I just love it so much. So let me tell you specifically about this one. So first let's talk about the yarn. The yarn is from the Little Wolf Knits, and it is a custom colorway called Love and Speckles that we did for Love and Stitches members in the first quarter of the year. So you can't get this anywhere else. Only those members could get this. So it's a very special hat, and it was dyed to look like a New York City sunset with all the blues and the purples and grays and the browns of the buildings. So it turned out really, really cool. So with this one in particular, I feel like I need to scoot back. Okay, with this one in particular, I tried a ribbing in the middle of the hat, and we're gonna fold this up together here in just a second, but you'll see that the ribbing is going to become a brim that folds up. So this hat is designed to be long enough to have a little bit of a slouch, but also a pretty thick fold up brim, and I wanted the brim to be all ribbed. In past versions of this hat, I have done where I started with rib and did rib for like 3/4 of the hat and then stockinette on the other side. So I had 2 options. I had a rib side of the hat and a stockinette side of the hat. But this one, I wanted to do something different, and I really liked knitting this version because there wasn't as much rib. That made it a more enjoyable knit for me. And I also think it used a little bit less yarn because I ended up with more yarn left over than I typically do. Typically I have about 2 grams left when I finish the hat, but this is about 6.5 grams. I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do with this yet because it's not quite enough to make like a mini yarn cozy or anything, but it could be good for maybe the heels of socks. I think I could do just heels or maybe just toes or just cuffs. So this is probably just gonna go in my fingering weight scrap drawer for now, and I'll see if I end up using it, or if I don't, I could always tie it into my magic knot ball. TBD, but it's not gonna become anything at the moment. So I got this idea of doing ribbing in the middle from one of my Love and Stitches members who did the same thing. So it's not my original idea, but it was really, really smart. And I've also seen some people lately do something I think is so fun with this hat, which is making it in 4 different colors. So they'll do one color for the body, like the crown and body. They'll use a different color for half of what will be the fold-up brim. Change colors again for the other half of the fold-up brim. Change colors again for the other like body and crown. So what you end up with is 2 completely different hats. And when you fold things up, this second half of the brim goes with this part of the body of the hat. And this part goes with this part. Because when you put it together and then fold it up, I believe that's what happens. Okay, let's talk about the section links. I tried to add really good notes to my project page for this. I'm always trying to, you know, keep good project notes on Ravelry for not only myself when I re-knit things, because I have made this hat many times, but also to answer questions that I feel like I'm anticipating that might happen. So definitely look through the project page. I've also started adding captions underneath some of my photos to explain further what the photo is. Sometimes it's just like a progress update, like, okay, now I've knit this much on this date, but sometimes I'll add like a description of what that actually is. So if you look in this one, I don't think you can see it super well, but there's like little words underneath the photos. I don't know if you can view those on mobile or not, maybe only a computer thing, but I've been finding that really helpful for myself because, I don't know, I think it just is. Okay, so before I blocked it this time, I decided to measure and see if the sections grew. But the pre-blocking measurements I think are more useful because that's the measurement that you want to attain when you're knitting it. But then it is also nice to know what does it like grow to when it blocks. However, I feel like the growth that happened in the hat was in length, but when I actually put it on my head and stretch it out, I think that length is going to shrink back down to the original measurements. That's my estimate. So what I have right now are measurements before blocking and after blocking, and then of course each section length. So let's talk about that. And you can find all this in my project page notes, but I just wanted to share it while I'm sharing the final hat. So I don't remember which end was the cast on, but cast on did the increases for the crown. From the increases to the start of the rib was 6.5 inches. From rib to rib was 6 inches, 3 inches of brim on either side. And then of course I mirrored it, 6.5 inches on this side, and then did the decreases. When I measured that before blocking, I have a picture here of what it looked like. It measured about 18 inches between the 2 increases. Truly, if you add up all those section lengths, 6.5 plus 6.5 plus 6, you should get 19 inches. But with me not like laying out the measuring tape and stretching it, it looks a little more like 18 before blocking. Now, if we look at the after blocking photo, I know you can't actually see the measuring tape, but without even having to like push on the measuring tape to like make sure it's all lining up, these between the crowns measured 20 inches. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the photos that I'm going to be putting in here are not the between the crown measurements, although those are in the project page. These photos are actually from crown to crown. So let me see, those were before blocking 21.5, and then after blocking, it's 25 inches from here to here. But I think those between the crown measurements are more helpful because that's what you are actually going to measure. So all the sizing and details and everything is in my project page. So I do wish I had used up a little bit more of my yarn so that I had just barely anything left. And the way I could have done that is if I had weighed the skein before to see how much was actually in the yarn. It's a 100-gram cake, but a lot of times the 100-gram cakes are really like 102 grams or 101 grams. So knowing exactly what I had before I started would have been super helpful. I then could have knit to the middle. I guess it would have been, oh, see, that's what's hard about it is like, I couldn't have known, I guess I could have extended my rib. That's probably what I would have done. Extended the rib a little bit. But when I was halfway done with the yarn, or probably about a little less than halfway, I would say 2 grams less than halfway, because I would want a little buffer. I wouldn't want to use up all of that yarn in case I got to the end and I ran out. But halfway on that rib point and then going, okay, now I can do half of a little bit more of the rib, like another half of that rib, and then I should be good to complete the hat. Hope I don't feel like I explained that super well, but what I didn't do, I didn't do that because I had previous hats where I knew the section lengths, and so I was just trying to match that. And then of course I was weighing my yarn just to make sure I wouldn't run out, and I realized I had plenty. Okay, enough explanation. Let's try this thing on. I haven't even taken it and put it into a real hat shape yet. So if you haven't seen one of these Musselburgh hats do this yet, here we go. So here's what you do. You find roughly the middle and kind of separate the hat. It's just one big tube. And then you start to stuff one end inside the other. It is a little bit awkward at first, but once you start wearing the hat, it kind of like has its own creases and it's totally fine. So once I get one crown inside the other, I like to flip the whole thing so that I can kind of, you know, let it kind of do it, like fall into place nicely, and then maybe flip it once more. And now it's feeling a lot better. So here's what it looks like when it's just half of the hat. So it looks much more hat shaped now. You can see that's the what's going to be the full up brim. But this is where I was talking about, if you change colors, whatever color you want to be with this crown has to be that opposite half of the rib, because when this folds up, this part that's right next to this crown is going to be hidden, and the other one is going to come up next to it. So just something to keep in mind. I feel like this is why I took pictures of the hat all laid out, because I feel like it's easier to visualize if you're trying to do some fun, you know, color blocking or something with your hat. I saw somebody use a sock set, 2 sock sets, where they used 50 grams for one crown and body, 20 grams for the first half of the rib, or actually they didn't do rib, they just did like brim, 20 grams for the second half of the brim, and then another color for the other body and rib. It was so cute, or body and crown. It was adorable. All right, let's try this thing on. The nice thing about having the rib in the middle, actually, I guess it doesn't really matter, but this is all smooth on the inside. So if you have like a texture issue maybe with the rib, that can be really, really nice. What do we think? It feels very comfortable, nice, a little snug. I like having a little slouch because I feel like it balances out the fact that I have a pretty small head for my body. So I like it, but it feels really good. These hats always feel a little bit snugger when you first wear them. It doesn't feel like uncomfortable or anything, but it will definitely stretch out. So you want like a little bit of a snug fit. Now this hat, because I made it totally mirrored and identical, if I flip it the other way and then, you know, flip up my brim, it's completely identical on the other side. There's no fun pops or differences. It's exactly the same hat. If it gets kind of like dirty on one side or whatever, I can flip it. If you don't like the way you cast on and you want to hide that and show the bind off, you can flip it. The 2 crowns do look a little different. This one I think is the decreased crown. I think it stands out a little bit more. And then this one is the increased crown, which I kind of like more, but that's where you have the cast on. So it kind of just depends on your preference, but most of the time, it's really not going to matter that much. I am so happy with it. It's still cold enough here to wear hats, so this is probably going to become my new favorite hat. Let's see, what's the temperature right now? 52 degrees, and it's supposed to be 55 when I am walking to Pilates later. So I'll probably wear this to keep myself warm until it warms up a little bit more here in New York. Next up, I have a semi-finished object. It is, I mean, mostly done, but you're gonna see it again next week because there's still a couple of finishing things that I need to do to it. And that is my Citrine Light. I definitely know that I haven't updated this project page yet. I need to go back and add some things. So let me tell you a little bit about what has happened in the last week. So this project, I was working on redoing the ribbing. So the ribbing originally had increasing, and then you did the ribbing, and I ran out of yarn. I also started to bind off, and I realized that it was looking very ripply because there were too many stitches for me in the ribbing, and also I just wasn't happy with the proportions. I didn't think that the 2 inches of ribbing I managed to squeeze out was enough. The pattern had 3 inches of ribbing written into it, and I really wanted it to look like that. So I pulled it back, and last week I was working on re-knitting the ribbing. And so I was working on it for 30 minutes a day, and that really helped get things done. There were a few days that I worked on it more than 30 minutes, but honestly, it went by faster than I would have anticipated, especially with twisted rib. And I'm so happy to report that I was able to get 3 inches of ribbing in here. So this has no increasing before the ribbing, so I did not follow the pattern in that regard, but I did knit the 3 inches of ribbing. The body of my sweater overall is a little bit shorter than like how it's written in the pattern too, which is why I'm saying I need to go update my project page. I just wanted to get everything finished and like measured and everything like that. So I have a bunch of ends that I still need to weave in where I like joined in new yarn. There was like quite a bit. I was doing some helical knitting that was left there. I haven't done the very last end either. I mean, look, that's what I had left of what was attached. I do have a little bit more yarn. I had this left over from something. I had this from a long time ago. And I had my swatch if I really needed it. I never cut it. So I had all of these things in case I needed them. But other than that, I used up every bit of the 5 skeins of yarn of this yarn, which I have right here. This is a Magpie Spin Cycle dyed in the skein, which is Fior, the colorway is Fior de Latte. So I used 5 skeins of that. So I think we need to do a quick little try on. Let me back up here. Whoa. I'll stand up too just a second, but when I tried this on, so actually I have a picture of me trying it on again before I bound it off. So before I bound this off, after I did the 3 inches of ribbing, I put it on tried on tubing again, and I blocked it, and then I tried it on, which is this photo here. So this is after blocking, but before doing the tubular bind off, because the sewn tubular bind off is so time consuming and it is so hard to unpick that I really didn't want to bind it off and then check that I was happy with the length and everything. So this sweater has been blocked now like 4 times or something, and I might block it again, although I'm kind of thinking that it might not actually need it. But I am noticing that the sleeves are a little long, but maybe I'll be happy with that, because I guess I don't want them to be too short. So let me back up and show you. I really was not so super happy with it when I first tried it on, but that was before the bind off. I haven't tried it on since then, and I'm wearing leggings, so this doesn't probably show exactly how it's going to look because I would wear it with jeans. But my hip bones are here, so I've definitely got a decent length. It's not super, I didn't want it super long. It's quite long in the pattern, but I think the rib came out just fine. It doesn't look like it's pulling in too much. It doesn't look like it's flaring out at all. I love this, that it has this like huge panel of twisted rib down the side. It's so pretty. So what I wasn't really happy with before is that it looked like very small here, like too small, and then like too skinny arms. But I don't know if we're really getting like a good picture of how it looks from this. I might need to take some more photos of it. I also wanted to block it because of all the wrinkling here, and I don't have a steamer, so I can't steam it. I have to block it or do something. So I don't know. So I'm kind of thinking, like, I'm not 100% sure if I should take a couple rows back on the sleeves, or maybe just leave them, let them be a little long, or if it would be nicer, maybe like look more proportionate if they were here. I mean, that would be a little bit out of the sleeves. They definitely grew. So let me know what you think about that. Again, I know it's kind of hard to tell. You can't even see like where my legs are because these leggings are so dark. But I think I'm happy with the length. I'm happy now that I have that 3 inches of ribbing. I think it just looks so much better. So I don't know. I think overall I think it's good. I guess I'm just a little bit disappointed because I put so much time and care into this sweater. And I mean, that's true about every knitting project, right? And I feel like it just didn't come out how I envisioned. It's not that it doesn't look like how the pattern is or everything, but I think I'm not liking it on me as much as I hoped, as much as I liked it on the designer and liked it on the models and everything. So I don't know if my expectations were just too high or if making like a few little tweaks would be the change that I need. Or if I just need some time away from it. I really don't know. I'm probably not going to be wearing it right now because even though it's 50 degrees today, it's still a little too warm to wear a long sleeve wool sweater. But I think all in all, I'm pretty happy with how it came out. I'm going to get the final touches of finishing done here this week. That is my goal. I want this project to be off of my whip list. It has been on there for way too long. I'm really excited to show you the progress that I have made on my blanket this week, which is my April Scrap-Free 2023 project. I have really been picking up the pace here. I wanted to have this project done in April. It did not happen, but it's okay. I've got plans to finish it this week. We have a lot of time this weekend, which I'm so grateful for, and we've had some busy times. I also can't remember if I started this. Oh, you know what? I meant to start this at the beginning of March. This was going to be my March and April project because it is a knitted blanket. I knew it was going to take me longer than the crocheted blankets that I had done in January and February. Plus, I'm making this entire blanket, whereas those ones were already part of the way done. So I'm really pleased with my progress this week. I've either done 6 colors or 4 colors or 4.5 colors. I can't really remember where I was when I showed last week, but let's talk about each of the quadrants and then I'll show you a picture in once I get to the end here of how they're looking all laid out. So I have completed 3 of the 4 quadrants. I'm so happy. So I guess I had already shown you guys this one last week, although I can't really remember. So this is quadrant B, which just means it's the second one that I started, but it's the first one that I finished. I don't know why. Maybe I was working on this one and then just like kept going. I really can't remember. But the last color that I was working on here is called, whoa, oh yeah, wait, this is right. It's called the Monorail. So all of this yarn is from Fangirl Fibers, and it was her Disney Advent Calendar from 2021. So I've had this yarn for a little while, and it is one of the first like collections of yarn, midi skein collections that I am working through for Scrap-Free 2023. So I'm so happy that it is almost all used up. So that's the first quadrant all done. Oh wait, let's talk about this pattern. This is called Quadrophenia by KF Jones. It is a square blanket that's knit in 4 triangles. I will sew them together and then I am planning to add a border to the pattern. That's not part of the pattern, but I will be putting notes in my project page. I'm just gonna do an I-cord bind off. It'll be really simple. So yeah, this is the first one. All done, the first one that I finished. And then I quickly moved along to my next one. This one I finished 2 colors. This is I think this is quadrant C. So you know what, maybe I didn't work on this one next. I think I went back to A, but it doesn't matter. So the 2 colors that I did this week for this one, oh yeah, I was definitely working on this one in the car on the way home. This one right here is called, this one, Fireworks. And the last one is called Space Mountain. So when Kent and I put together the color order of this blanket, it was his idea to put the colors from the center out in the order that we typically go to Disney World and like move through the park. So the last color of each one is from Tomorrowland. So we've already seen the Monorail, Space Mountain, and then coming up next, let's see, where did I just put this? Oh, let's see what we got. So then I finished another quadrant, I guess. Yeah, I guess I did 4.5 colors this week. So I did these 2 last colors. This one is probably my favorite. It's the very first one I started. I just love the first color on here. It's so beautiful. So this one, the 5th color, right here was Cinderella's Castle. And then the very last color is the People Mover, which is super fun. So cute. So all of those three are done. I've kept the stitches live because I'm planning to do an applied I-cord bind off where you bind off one stitch as you knit the I-cord all the way around. I still am undecided on whether I'm going to use this pink yarn or this neutral colored yarn. I'm kind of leaning towards the neutral, but I kind of need to do a little test and see what looks best. These are both from Moonglow, so hopefully I'll have a finished blanket to show you next week. But I am currently working on now the final quadrant. I just started this morning on the 5th color, so there's only 4 colors completed so far, but I've already wound up my last 2 colors so that I can just fly through things. And I figured out that if I can work 14 rows today, tomorrow, and Friday, I will be finished knitting by the weekend, which is important because I want to finish this over the weekend. And I think I want to block the quadrants before I put them together. I think that will just make it a little easier, maybe give me a little more stretch, because if I sew them and then block them, you know, what if they want to grow a lot? These are garter stitch, and I don't want to hold them back from growing because it would be really nice for it to grow a little bit. But let me show you these colors and then I'll talk more about that plan. This one is called Fantasyland, so the 5th color of this final quadrant. And the very last one that I'm going to be working is called Tomorrowland. So they all end with either a purple or a blue, which I feel like kind of balances and ties things up. So here's a photo of everything laid out. I took it this morning. This is the most updated photo I have of how everything is looking. When I measured it this morning, again, this is pre-blocking, it is a 39-inch square. I think that's pretty on par for what the pattern said. I'm actually using a bigger needle than the pattern suggested because, well, actually, usually I go down a needle size, but it said to knit it on a size 3, and for me, that's just way too dense and tight for a fingering weight fabric. I was kind of thinking along the lines of when I use fingering weight yarn for a sweater, the kind of drape that I want, I usually use a size 4 needle. So I have actually been knitting the whole thing on a size 4, and I think it's been coming out really great. I haven't kept track of if I'm on par with all of the stitch counts that were in the pattern since like the 2nd color. The pattern's so memorizable. I honestly haven't looked at it since I started. So I have just been keeping track of my own stitch counts, putting them in my project page, and weighing my yarn to try to use it up to the very, very end, which is the whole purpose of this pattern and why Kay wrote it. So it's been so enjoyable. I've loved it a lot. So I'm thinking that I'm going to block all of my quadrants on their own, let them relax and stretch, and then seam them together. So my plan right now is to finish the knitting in the next 3 days, block them, let them dry Friday night, Saturday, and then hopefully on Sunday I can just dedicate myself to seaming, weaving in ends, and doing a big I-cord bind off all the way around. What I want to do before I actually wash them is do a little test and see if I want to see which color I want to bind off with, and also see if I want to do either 1 or 2 rows of knitting in my border color, in my I-cord color, before I actually do the bind off. I think I will want at least 1. I haven't thought, I feel like if I do 2 rows, it's going to look weird to have like 1 garter ridge of the border color. So I don't really know what I'm going to do yet, but I'm going to do a little practice on one of the pieces and then see how that turns out. And of course, whatever I end up doing, I'm going to add to my project page in case you're making one of these and you want to do something similar. I still have 2 more projects to show you. Can you believe it? I actually knit this week, which feels so good. I can't even tell you. And I already have project plans for May. Like the last 2 months, I feel like I was out doing things when the month started, and it just kind of made my whole month feel shaky. And you know what? That happened this month too, but I was like, I'm ready for it. I'm here. I'm not gonna let just because I was traveling on May 1st keep me from like getting my projects together and worked on this month. But we're not there yet. I'm talking about project plans in the next segment. So let me show you my next project. This one is sort of a half project, but it is knitting. And so I do want to share that I started a few things, but this is sock week yarn again. So we need to go again to black and white. 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so I have been knitting up Sock Week samples because the Sock Week sponsor reveal is coming up in just 2 weeks on May 16th. It's going to be live. It's on Tuesday, May 16th. Is that the right date? I think it's on Tuesday, May 16th. Let's see. Yes, Tuesday, May 16th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to be the first to see all of the Sock Week yarns and other items, make sure you're there to watch that video. However, they are not going on sale for another week and a half. It's going to be not the Friday right after the video, but the following Friday. I don't know the date right now, but that's when the shop updates will be. I want you to have plenty of time to see everything, let our sponsors talk about everything. Oh, I'm like hiding the things, but I forget we're already in black and white, so it doesn't really matter. So I am going to show you in black and white just what I worked on this week. I kind of noticed in my sock collection that I have a shortage of shorty socks, and I like wearing shorty socks. I like wearing really short shorty socks, and I like wearing kind of midi length shorty socks. So I am doing both of those things, and none of these have project pages yet. I'm going to wait until after the Sock Week yarn is revealed, and then I'll make project pages for all of them and kind of show, you know, right in there how many stitches I'm doing and how many rows and stuff like that if you want to follow along. So I have this one that is going to be a super shorty sock. So imagine what this is going to look like, but it's really short. It's got 8 rows of rib. It's got 12 rows of, or 12 rounds of a leg, and then I've done the fish lips kiss heel. I've done this one. All of these actually are going to be in my Perfect Fit Sock formula, which is a custom fit, a course that I teach on how to custom fit your socks. And then I've just done one more. This one's going to be a little bit longer. This one is 20 rounds of ribbing, and then there will be, I think, also 20 rounds in the leg. I can't remember. I've got my notes written somewhere, and then I will do the heel. So they're not super short, but they're also not super long. So all of these you will be seeing in color in just a couple of weeks, so hold tight. I'm not going to tease you anymore with any more Sock Week project yarns. Those are kind of just, I wanted to get a couple of inches knit on them just so you could really see them when I show off the yarns, but that's it. No more in the podcast until the reveal on May 16th. Back to color now. I have one more project to show you. I just started this one yesterday, so there's not a lot going on it yet, but on Monday, May 1st, the Cozy Along began, and I don't have any cozy whips, so I wanted to start a yarn cozy. When we did our, hold on, excuse me, when we did our live on Tuesday, I kind of like, it gave me the idea of what I wanted to make for this Cozy Along. Also just following everyone's progress and when everyone's tagging me in their cozies kind of gave me the inspiration I needed to start on a cozy. I don't know what it is about, I guess when you're the person who's coordinating everything for a make-along, sometimes it's really hard to participate and actually enjoy it. And I have been trying my hardest to do all of the work ahead of time so that I can actually enjoy things like Sock Week and this Cozy Along and all of that. But if you're a creator that does things like that, whether it's in the yarn world or not, maybe you can relate to this where it's like, it's hard to actually enjoy the event that you've planned and worked on so hard, because once it gets to the event, you're like, okay, let's just let everyone enjoy. I'm gonna sit back here. But so I was thinking of doing that, but then I was like, that's silly, Natalie. Like, you can knit some cozies, like you love knitting cozies, and it would be so fun to actually participate with everyone. So I got over myself, and maybe it's a sign of growth, and I have cast on a cozy. So I've decided that I want to make a sock set. This was definitely an idea that I got from, I don't remember, somebody maybe on YouTube or something. So my plan is to knit 2 50-gram yarn cozies and 1 20-gram yarn cozy. So they all match, and it's a little set that I can use for socks. So the 2 50 grams will be slightly different from each other so that I can tell the two socks apart. But I sometimes like to split my 100-gram skein into 2 50-gram cakes. And then those 50-gram cozies are perfect for the socks. By the way, if you bought your patterns on Ravelry, check for an update. Go to your library, it will say update, it'll have a little swirly. You also should have gotten a Ravelry message and an email. You need to update your mini yarn cozy pattern because I made a big edit where I've added another 1/2 inch to the 50-gram size. It fits so much better. After using my 50-gram cozies for a couple of years, I realized it needed that update. So please go update your pattern. I also put some instructions in there on how to do a contrast I-cord, which I'm planning to do for one of these. Okay, so let's talk about the yarn. And I realized that I haven't gone back and figured out where these scraps are from. Ooh, this is a scrap-free 2023 project because I'm using scraps. Again, haven't gone back to look at where these are from, but once upon a time, I used these yarns. So in the cozies that I was showing off this week, I have this bright, I mean, look, it's like glowing, this bright neon yellow, and I love it. I think it's so fun. And then I saw that I have this pink that's very soft, but if you look closely, it's got pops of neon yellow. And so I thought that will be so fun to do some cozies and put this as the I-cord edging. This leftover weighed 27 grams, and my 2 50-gram yarn cozies I most recently completed need 18 grams in total together, the two of them. And then I should have enough left over, that's 9 grams left over for a mini yarn cozy. So I think as long as I use this as the contrast edging for 1, maybe 2 of those cozies, I should be able to make the whole set out of this 27-gram ball. That's what I'm hoping. So I've just barely gotten started. This is the mini yarn cozy by me. You can find it under Knitty Natty or Love and Stitches. I've just done the bottom part and I've done 1 round of the ribbing. I don't really have any rush on these. I'm just planning over the course of this month to work on these when I'm out and about, which is great because I finished my Musselburgh, so I need an out and about project. They are pretty quick. Somebody asked me how long do they take, and what did I make? I think I made 100-gram ones in 8 hours because I knit those during the Knit for Food knit-a-thon. So these will take a little less than that. So, you know, 6 to 10 hours, just depending on the size. So they're a pretty relatively quick project, definitely doable over the course of the week, or if you have a lot of knitting hours, you could do them over a weekend. So I'm very excited about this project. I think it's going to turn out so cute, and I can't wait to have a really lovely matching sock set. As it is the first podcast of a new month, I want to talk about my project plans. We're going to review April's project plans, see how things went, not great, and then talk about May's project plans. I'm also going to give you a quick, brief little stash update. Stash is not my focus this year. My focus has been using up scraps and mini skeins, which I can say I'm making great progress on. But before we get into that, I just wanted to share that I am going to be removing the intentions section of the podcast from now on. Maybe it will come back, but I don't really have any plans for that in the future. So I have been making these goals for myself. That's really scary. All my different personalities. I've been making these goals for myself, a personal, a business, and a knitting or crochet goal over the past 4 months, and it's been going really great for me. I'm actually not planning to stop making those goals, but I'm taking them out of the podcast for a couple of reasons. One, it just felt like March and April were kind of like wah-wah, like I didn't really have clear goals. I didn't really have clear progress to show, and it just felt like I was talking about them on the podcast because I had said I was going to talk about them on the podcast, and I wasn't really focusing on doing the goals for me, which is the whole point of the intentions. So that's one reason why I'm taking them out of the podcast. But the other reason is that I have some goals this month that are much more personal, and it's just not going to be something that I want to talk about or share on the podcast. And so again, the whole point of those intentions was to work on self-improvement. And so it's going to continue to be that. It's just not going to be here on the podcast. So that section, we're saying goodbye to it for now. Maybe sometime in the future it will be back. So let's talk about project plans. Getting my notebook here because I still really like putting project plans into my notebook. So here's what April looked like. I had plans to write down everything, all the yarns that were in my stash. But I will tell you that my stash really didn't change, at least visibly, in the month of April. I'll talk about that a little more in a second. So I just didn't write down an inventory. I'm not really focused on using up those stash yarns right now, those 100-gram skeins. I'm really just focused on making moves on my scrappy projects, and that's really what I did for the month. As far as my project plans go, I had these things on the list: Quadrophenia, All of the Lights, Musselburgh, and the diaphanous raglan. So 50% of that has great progress. I finished my Musselburgh hat, and I finished it in April, which makes me feel so good. I didn't finish my Quadrophenia in April, but I'm really not upset with myself about that because I made so much progress. And I feel really proud of myself for when I saw that I wasn't going to finish it in April like I intended. I didn't let that slow down my steam. I also didn't let it make me go nuts and be like, okay, I can't work on anything else, or like, I have to stay up late and get this done. I just was like, okay, I need another week. What would it look like if I were to finish this in the first week of May? Could that be a possibility for me? What would I have to get done? How many sections would I need to do this last week of April to set myself up to finish in the first week of May? And when I looked at it that way, it just felt like, okay, great. I'm going to finish it in the first week of May. No big deal. Like, I'm not going to be worried about this well, I wasn't worried about it, but even if I was worried about it, I wouldn't even remember a year from now that I was supposed to finish it, in April, and finish it the first week of May. It's gonna be fine. So I feel really good about it, and just really happy with I just feel like past me would have abandoned the project and not continued full steam ahead when I saw that I wasn't gonna make a deadline that I'd set for myself. So it makes me feel so much better. Aww. I think he just started snoring. He is so sweet. All right, as far as All of the Lights, I am a little more upset with myself about this one because I have been pushing this All of the Lights project from March to April, and now I'm pushing it to May. And you know what? It's like, why do I keep pushing this project? Well, it's because I have other goals that have been more important. Did I tell myself that they were more important, consciously? No. But by my own actions and looking back at my own actions, I can tell that for me right now, the most important thing, or the thing that I'm enjoying the most, is working on my scrap-free 2023 projects. I'm having so much fun working on the Quadrophenia blanket, working through my advents, having a lovely, simple garter stitch project. And starting something new, a big sweater, just hasn't seemed appealing, or I probably would have done it. So I've moved this to May. I am feeling really excited about it, or at least I was until honestly I started talking about it just now. So I might have to reevaluate that. Maybe I'm just not wanting to make a big sweater right now. I don't know what it is. I think I am a little, you know what? We'll get to that in a second. It didn't happen, and that's okay. The other thing I thought that I was going to do was start a summer top. That was a little I think we all knew when I wrote that down that that wasn't going to happen. So I'm not stressed about that. That didn't happen, and that is okay. So using what I learned about myself from April, let's go into May. I am feeling much more confident about my May project plans. I also really like switching over my colors for a new month, feeling springy, blue for skies, pink almost always. So When I start doing my project plans, I start by writing down what works in progress that I have on the needles. Right now, I have 3 works in progress. I have my Citrine Light because I still need to weave in the ends or make any changes to that. And I really want that just completely finished and checked off the list. It needs to go this week. I have Quadrophenia, my blanket, and then I also have my yarn cozies. The yarn cozies though, they're gonna get done. I'm really just not worried about those. But the other things I kind of wanted to break down into weeks. So I started out with that. Then I add anything that I am wanting to cast on or thinking about casting on, and I just write them all down. It doesn't mean they have to come up this month, but it kind of lets me see all the things that are on my brain so that I can prioritize the things that I really want to happen. And then I break down the weeks. I actually haven't gone back. I need to go back and write in the dates here and just write like little tidbits for myself of things that I want to happen. I usually leave the 3rd and 4th week of the month a little bit more open because things change and I need to make adjustments to my projects. But this month I really went into my plan. So things I have on the list to potentially cast on. All of the Lights, which is a gorgeous, actually we probably have a picture of it here. All of the Lights by Hoagie Locatelli, the beautiful cabled sweater. I have FOMO right now because a bunch of my friends cast it on and they've been working through it. They started it in March and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I could just get started on this. I really want to do it. What was the other one? Oh, a summer top. I don't know what pattern yet, but some kind of summer top. And then my next Scrap Free in 2023 project is the Crochet Advent Baby Blanket. And I am really excited about that one. You know what? Let me grab the yarns for those projects because then I can show them to you real quick. All right, so for the All of the Lights cardigan, I do have some yarn, but I will say I'm not 100% decided on it yet. I think this is a beautiful yarn, by the way. This is from the Little Wolf Knits. And oh no, I forgot what the color is called. I don't have a tag. I can't quite remember what the color is, but it came out a little bit different than I anticipated. And so what I really need to do is just knit up a swatch and see if I am going to like it. I think I am. I think I'm just I was a little bit taken aback when it came in and it looked different than the photo. And Bree, the dyer, she told me before it came, like I had time to say like, I don't like that. She told me, she said, hey, the new dyes came in and like the actual dye, and she's like, they're a lot darker. Do you like it? And I was like, yeah, I think so. And then I actually got it in person and I was a little surprised. So I think I'm still trying to figure out if this is exactly, like this is a big project and I want to love the color with the project and everything. And so I think I'm still trying to decide on that, if I will be happy with the end result. And I think I'm only going to know that by swatching. So I need to figure that out. And that's probably another reason that I've avoided starting the project, because it's a lot of mental work and everything. But it's going to be done at some point. All of the Lights, I'm really excited for it. It's going to be beautiful. The other project, I think I'm even more excited for this one. Like I'm ready to start this one this weekend as soon as I'm done with Quadrophenia, is the Crochet Advent Baby Blanket by Lucy and Crochet. You can see a picture of it here. It is a chevron crocheted blanket and it is meant for Advents. I am going to make a small change because it is intended, I think, for a 24 or 25 skein Advent and then one full skein of yarn. So you can see there's little bits of color in between. But I actually have a 31 skein Advent. This was a July Advent. And so instead of doing a main skein in between, I'm just gonna go through all 31 of my colors and it will be what it will be. This is a Pokemon Advent from Fangirl Fibers. So I'm really excited to work through this one. This blanket is finally gonna be for that guy over there. He's excited, you just can't tell. So I am very excited to work through another big mini skein set, and also just to crochet again. I've missed having a crochet project after having a big crochet blanket in January, a big crochet project in February. I've been missing it for these last 2 months, even though I have been really loving knitting on the Quadrophenia. So those are kind of upcoming projects for me. So breaking things down, I decided that this week is week 1. I need to finish my Citrine Light, weave in all the ends, make any decisions on it, and reblock it if needed. I want to finish Quadrophenia, so I broke down, let's see, these are my like crazy notes. So this is 14 rows today, 14 rows tomorrow, 14 rows on Friday, block it, sew it together, and the border, so that I can just kind of cross things off as I go through them. And then I also want to start my crochet advent baby blanket. I'm like so excited to do it. I can't even tell you. I have written out for myself 31 day, wait, I got to 30. I guess I forgot to write 31 here. But over the next 3 weeks, I've written out like if I do 10 colors, I guess 11 on this last one, on this last week, I could finish the crochet advent baby blanket in May, which was my original plan when I planned everything back in January for Scrap Free 2023. So we're gonna see how things go. It seems doable. Of course, I haven't gotten into it yet and seen how long it actually takes me to do the one section of color, so stay tuned. I'm not gonna stress about all of the lights this week. I am going to try to get everything going this week that I want to get finished up and started on my crochet advent baby blanket, and then we'll work on a swatch this next week. If I keep pushing this All of the Lights cardigan off, then I really need to look at if I really want to make it, I guess. I don't know, like, I don't know if anyone else thinks about their own thoughts that way or their own actions, but I kind of think like, well, there's got to be a reason that I keep pushing it off. Is it the yarn? Is it the project? Is it what's going on in my life? And then just really making a decision that's like best for current Natalie. What does current Natalie want to do right now? What do I want to get done? And I guess I can say that the answer to that at the moment is just Scrap Free 2023. I am having a blast. As far as my stash goes, there really isn't a big change from March to April. I have a photo here of what my stash looks like right now in May. So technically this is like April stash, but like what it looks like at the beginning of May. So you're gonna see the Pokemon Advent calendar, you're gonna see all the yarn from All of the Lights, and pretty much everything that I had before that. But photos can be deceiving because I actually have made some moves with yarn this month. They just weren't visible in that little cube where I keep my stash. I gave 1 skein of yarn away as a giveaway to my membership. I also got in some yarn. I got in a lot of Sock Week yarn, which I'm already using, and also it's work yarn. It's things that I'm going to show and use and take photos of, so it's kind of different. It doesn't really count exactly the same. And then I used up almost all of my Fangirl Fibers yarn for the Quadrophenia, so like that wasn't shown in there, but I've been going through tons and tons of yarn with that. I also gave away 2 gallon-sized bags stuffed full of scraps, and that doesn't show because that was in a different drawer. So I've really been making some moves on moving through yarn, working with yarn this month. So it will be kind of exciting. I am really having a good time with Scrap Free 2023, but it's also making me feel like, or like look like, I guess, that I'm not using the yarn in my stash. And so in a way, it makes me feel a little bit like my efforts last year have come to a standstill, because all last year I was working so hard on using up 100-gram skeins. So I have to keep reminding myself that I'm still using yarn this year. It's just all the other stuff that I had, all those leftover advent sets, all those leftover yarns, like I am moving through them, and that still feels really, really good. Let's get into some questions. As always, if you have a question for me, make sure to leave a comment down below, but in front of it, put hashtag question. That's how we search for them and find what the questions are for the podcast. We always get more questions than I have the space to answer in the podcast. So if I don't answer your question, you can definitely ask it again. Like if you asked it last week, doesn't get answered, you can throw it into the comments again. And we're looking for those things. Like if a question keeps getting asked, like I'm going to make sure I answer it eventually. Okay, so let's get into this week's question. Our first one is from Faith. I enjoy your videos so much that I started back at the very beginning to catch up. I think I'm up to 58 now. Wow. However, often you'll reference a video in those. Love letter to a shawl, a collab with somebody, etc. And I can never seem to find those. I stumbled on a video documenting the pattern testing of a shawl for someone else, stopped to do something, and I couldn't find it again. The podcasts are numbered so they are easy, but the other videos are hard if not impossible for me to find. They don't seem to be in your video list. Any suggestions to help keep this technologically dense crocheter? Okay, so first of all, you're fine. You are not dense, don't worry. YouTube can be a little silly to navigate sometimes. So I've put together a bunch of playlists, but if you go to like youtube.com/Knitty Natty, you're only going to see the first 5 videos in each of those playlists. You can click into the playlist and then scroll through them. I try to keep them chronological, but that still may mean that you can't find a certain video. So let me tell you the best way to find videos from me or any other creator on YouTube. And I actually made a screen recording of this so you can follow along here. Uh-oh, there's an ambulance. Maybe we should let that go by. I used our little break here as an opportunity to let in a little more light. So that definitely looks so much better. It was just so bright and sunny when I first started that if I didn't let down the shades, I was not going to be able to look in the camera. Okay, so how do you find videos from me that are from the past? Because yeah, it's not fun to be just like scrolling and scrolling endlessly through playlists. And if you go to my uploads, it's only going to show you so many videos. So the best way to do it is to go to search. So if you go into YouTube, at the top, there is a search bar. Type in like Knitty Natty love letter and hit enter, and you should get all the videos from me that are titled that. If you typed in Knitty Natty shawl, you would probably find that other video that you were looking for. I think that one is the Soundwave shawl. If you ever want to know if I have a video on a certain technique, you can type in Knitty Natty and then what that technique is. That is going to be the best way, hands down, to find any video. And you don't need to be on my page in order to do it. You can do it from like straight at the home of YouTube. But you do need to have Knitty Natty in there because then it takes my channel plus anything that I have. I actually use this feature a lot because sometimes I'll get questions about something, maybe in Instagram, and somebody's looking for a video or somebody's looking for how to do something, I have a tutorial on it. So even for me, the easiest way for me to find videos for myself is to go Knitty Natty knitting over ends. I think I Google that one or put it into YouTube all the time. I find the video, I copy it, and I send it away to somebody else. So you are not alone there, and hopefully this tip will help. Okay, our second question is, it was funny, emergency, right? This one was an emergency. This is from Wiggleworm. Please help. I bought 2 skeins of Knit Picks Luminous Lace at the beginning of my knitting journey without really knowing how to use a lace weight. My issue now is that I don't want to make anything lace. Does anybody have a summary top pattern, any summary top pattern recommendations that I could use, maybe holding it double? Okay, so I thought this was a great way to use a yarn that you don't want to use on its own because it's too fine to work with. And I had to Google this because I wasn't 100% sure when you hold 2 lace weight yarns together what weight that equals. And it looks like 2 lace weight skeins are going to equal 2 lace weight strands are going to equal 1 fingering weight strand. So technically, I think you could look for any tops that are knit with fingering weight yarn, hold your yarn double, and be okay. But what you're going to want to make sure is that when you look at the yardage, you're gonna need twice as much yardage. So if a top uses 100 yards, that's not gonna be any top, but just for an example, if a top uses 100 yards of fingering weight, you're actually going to need 200 yards of lace weight because you're gonna have 2 sets of strands. So just make sure to do the math on that so that you have enough yarn. I'm sure you could make maybe like, if you like a summery top, like Jessie Made Designs has those ripple bralettes or ripple tanks. I think those are all fingering weight. They don't use a lot of yarn. So that may work for you if you just have 2 skeins. I really have been liking a lot of the stuff that the Little Wolf Knits is putting out, although I think they may need a little more yarn. But I feel like if you can find something that's sleeveless or has really skinny straps, that you're gonna be able to make a summer top by holding those yarns doubled. Next up, we have a question about the granny stripe blanket. So Toaster, I'm so sorry, but I am gonna need to borrow that. Maybe let's do a little swapperoo. I'll give you this one. But I am gonna need this, buddy. Oh, he doesn't even care. Here you go, honey bunny. Okay. I gave him a little kiss with the side of my cheek because I have lip gloss on and I do not want dog hair stuck all over me. Okay, this is a question from Farah. Hi Natalie, I'm just starting my granny stripe blanket and I'm wondering what's your method for changing colors at the end of the second row? And do you have any tips for weaving in your ends? Thanks for all the great content. Okay, I am going to explain this as best as I could. I spent about 10 minutes this morning trying in vain to find the tutorial that I used to learn how to weave in ends, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I've been trying to find this for so long. It's from the pattern designer, Lucy Addict 24. She had a tutorial, a photo tutorial at some point that I found about weaving in ends. I think it was on a granny square, but I used the same techniques and I just can't find it. I've been searching for it, not just today, like in other times too. There's also a small chance that I showed how to do this, maybe in a Vlogmas, but that's something that's hard to find. If it's within a video, you can't use that search feature. It has to be its own video. So, okay, let's talk about this. So in this granny stripe pattern, this is the Granny Stripes by Lucy of Addict 24, but I have heavily modified it for a fingering weight yarn. You can find all my project details on this project page. On one end, you're changing colors because you work 2 rows and then change colors, 2 rows and change colors, 2 rows and change colors. So when I change colors in crochet, oh my gosh, maybe I did get dog hair on me. But when I change colors in crochet, I like to do it really simply. I think some crocheters learn to make a, what is it called? A slip knot on their hook and then pull the slip knot through the stitch, but I don't do that. So I think in the pattern, she says to probably do that and like pull up a loop. Hold on, let me back up. When you finish a color, you finish it off completely. I did that. And then you pull up a new color in, I think in the chain space or in between the 2 double crochets. Whatever the pattern said to do, that's what I do. But instead of doing a slip knot, I literally just dive my hook in, hook my yarn, leave a little tail and pull it up. And then I yarn over, pull through and like knot it there. Then I do the 3 chains or whatever. So I don't like starting with a slip knot on my hook. I'd rather dive in, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through to secure it into place. So that's how I change colors. And then as far as weaving in the ends, I never wove in an end except at the very end of the blanket until I had a row on top. So basically I always had one end hanging out and then I would work my next color and I would weave in, there would be 3 ends, the one I just cut off, the one from the previous color and the one from starting the new color. I would weave in the end from the previous color, the one from starting the new color, and leave the last end. And until I did another row, another 2 rows, and then I would weave in my end. So I never wove in an end until I had 2 rows on top of it. Does that make sense? Hopefully it will if you're working the pattern. So I didn't weave in my end my very last end and then start my new color. So the way that I wove things in, God, there's a lot of dog hair on this. The way that I wove in my ends is I would take like this end and I would weave it here. I would weave it at least like 3 or 4 like, I guess it would be more like 8. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then when I got to this one, the one that it is the same color of, I would go back, forth, back. I definitely showed this in a video somewhere. I don't know which one it is, but that's how I would do that one. And then for the starting one, so like same peachy color, the starting one is down here, I would go through the bottom. So like the first row of it, I'd go through here, here. Oh no, wait, that's not what I did. Hold on, let me think about this for a second. Because you want that color to be with it, right? Oh, so I would take that color and I would come up right here and I'd go through the bottom of this so that it could be the same color. So I go through here, here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I would go like back, forth, back. Does that make sense? I know it's not like, that's as good as I can do without like making up a sample, which is a very time consuming and not something that I'm planning to do anytime soon. What in the world? Little piece of a dog toy. So hopefully that kind of makes sense and can help you figure out your own method. It definitely took me, you know, a few inches of working the blanket before I found something that I was really happy with and liked the look of. All right, next question is about Kent, which made me giggle. This question is from Liz. Can Kent knit? If not, I think you could do a really fun video where you try to teach him. Okay, Liz, you are not the first person that has suggested this idea. I think it would be so fun to do. So Kent cannot knit. I also don't really know if I want Kent to knit because I really like knitting being my thing. I think it's really healthy and nice to have different hobbies, but Kent knows a lot about knitting. Like he knows a lot about yarn. He could hold a conversation about knitting, but he just knows enough to be like with it and like into the environment. I feel like I'm the same way with his hobbies, like sports and video games. I know enough that I could have a conversation in that environment, but not enough to actually play. I think it would be fun to teach Kent how to knit. He's done a couple of stitches here and there. Like he's seen me knit enough that he understands that you have to like go into a stitch, wrap around, and then do something. But does he successfully knit? No. Do I want him to? I don't think so. But I think it could be fun to do a video one day where he learns how to do a knit stitch. Maybe he does a row or something on one of my socks. I think that could be really, really fun. Last question here is from Sarah Jo. Hello, I'm pretty new to watching your podcast, so I'm sure longtime viewers will know, but what is Sock Week? Does it cost something to join in? What does it entail, or where can I find this information? Thanks so much. Okay, great question, because if you weren't with us last July for Sock Week last year, you probably don't know what Sock Week is. So I'm gonna have so much information about Sock Week coming out in 2 weeks, and if you're getting that information in 2 weeks, you're getting it in plenty of time to participate. So all of that is coming. I'm gonna do a sponsor reveal video on May 16th where I'll talk all the details about the make along, plus all of the yarns and other things that are involved. So just as a general breakdown, Sock Week is in July. It's gonna be July 9th to the 17th or something like that. I can't remember the dates exactly, but it's a Sunday to a Sunday. It's a challenge to knit or crochet 1 sock. You can up the challenge by making more socks if you want. They have to be fingering weight yarn and adult sized, but other than that, you pick the challenge. If you want to make tall socks, short socks, whatever you want to do is totally fine with me. They need to be hand knit, so not cranked, and you can't start them until the day that Sock Week starts, and the goal is to finish by the day that Sock Week ends, so 8 full days. So during the make along, we have some fun events. Some of them are free and some of them are paid. So if you don't want to pay anything for Sock Week or don't have the means to, you absolutely don't have to. You can come to our free events, you can participate for free, it costs nothing to enter for prizes. If you want a little bit more out of Sock Week, I'm gonna be offering a paid package that will have a bunch of really awesome events as well as a Discord. We did something last year like this. It's gonna be pretty similar. I'll be sharing all the details on that very, very soon. Now, coming up even sooner than that, I have all of these amazing small businesses that have created a custom and unique item that is exclusive to Sock Week 2023. So those I'm going to be revealing here on May 16th so that they can go on sale. So if you want to purchase any of those items, it's not required for participation, though it will get you bonus entries for the prizes. You can purchase some of those things, support some small businesses, support Sock Week, and get something really fun and unique. So that's basically it. Sock Week is like just a fun way to knit on our socks during the summer, to introduce you all to some different makers and let you get to know them. This year we're gonna have international makers, which is gonna be really cool. So I am so excited to share all of that. We've been working so hard on getting everything coordinated and finished for you. I just put in an order for my Sock Week merch. There's gonna be t-shirts. So I'm so excited to actually share everything. I know our sponsors are too, because we have been hard at work getting Sock Week prepared for this year. So it will be coming up. More information will be coming up very soon. I'll have a web page and everything as well. Okay, that's the last question. So again, if you have any questions for me, put them down below with the hashtag question at the beginning. This week's newest video is the Cozy Along Kickoff. It was a YouTube Live. If you haven't joined us for one of the YouTube Lives, they are so much fun. We don't have one, I think, planned coming up, but we definitely will have one for Sock Week, which we were just talking about. But it's a lot of fun because I get to chat with you and interact with you on video, and it was really, really great. I shared all of the different details about our Cozy Along happening in the month of May, plus I shared on video, which is like the best way to see it, all of the different types of cozies that are included. So any of my patterns that are a cozy pattern, either a beverage cozy or a yarn cozy, can be knit or crocheted for this make along. So definitely check that out. It's a fun one. It's about, I think, an hour and 10 minutes long. Coming up next week, we have a yarn store tour. We haven't had one of those in a long time, but when we were in Nashville this past week, we went to my first local yarn store, Bliss Yarns. So we have a Bliss Yarns yarn tour coming up. We sat down and interviewed the owner, Deb, showed off a lot of the beautiful yarn that is there. So I can't wait for you to see that. I can't believe it's taken us this long to do a yarn store tour at Bliss. The big news of the month is that the Cozy Along is underway. We are cozying along from May 1st to May 31st. There are prizes involved. Those I show in the Cozy Along kickoff video. It's going to be a lot of fun. Also, all the details about the Cozy Along are listed in the description of that video. They're also listed in a caption on Instagram. I don't have a web page for the Cozy Along right now, but maybe I'll have one before the end. I don't know. If you want to see written details, those are the two places that you can find them. But the gist is, it could be started prior to May 1st, but work on one of my cozy patterns. There are different yarn cozies, there are different crochet yarn cozies, there are different knitted beverage cozies. Work on any of them within the month of May. Then if you're working on it and it's a whip, you can post on Instagram. Just use the hashtag CozyAlong2023. If you finish a cozy, you also get to submit it via a Google form, which you can find in my Instagram bio, you can find in that YouTube video. And that will also enter you to win a different set of prizes. So it's gonna be a really fun month. And of course, as you're making, just tag me in your stories. I love getting to share. That's where I got the idea about doing a sock set, or maybe that was from YouTube. Again, I can't remember, but I always love being able to get inspired from other people's makes. The Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival is coming up this weekend, May 6th and 7th. I will not be attending this year. We need a weekend off. We've had a really busy last couple of weeks. We've honestly had a lot of travel this year, and we have a lot of travel coming up. Little trips out of town, bigger trips, other just life things going on, and so it's just not going to work out for us to go to Maryland this weekend, but it's a really great show, and I know a lot of you are going, so I hope you have so much fun and buy lots of yarn and have beautiful weather. The last thing is that the Sock Week 2023 sponsor reveal is coming up on Tuesday, May 16th. It's going to be at noon here on this channel. It is going to be a live premiere, which means I've pre-recorded the video, so everything's nice and concise with all the details, but then we're gonna watch it together and have a live chat. So you can ask questions, I'll be there, I'll be chatting to you, and it will be really, really fun. So all of those things coming up, if they have links, will be linked down below. We have spent the last 9-ish days in Tennessee. We drove down on a Friday and got to spend Saturday having some fun, and then I recorded the last podcast that Sunday. So since then, it's been like 8 days or something. I don't know. Time is a little bit of a blur. But while we were in Tennessee, we really had a great time getting to visit with family. Our dog Toaster really just loves my brother and his wife, now wife's dog Harry. So I got a little video of them running around in their newly finished backyard. It's so beautiful. So the dogs really, really loved that. Toaster gets along with my brother's dog Harry way better than he gets along with my parents' dog Cinnamon. So he had a really good time running around with little Harry. It was really great. We also went to Bliss Yarns, as I just mentioned, and filmed a tour there, which was really fun. We got to spend about an hour just like hanging out before the shop closed, and then once the shop closed, we spent about, 2 hours, I think, filming a tour. So it will be fun to see that video come to life, and that one's coming out on Tuesday. After that, the week was really just quite a blur. We worked while we were in Tennessee, brought our computers, brought our filming equipment. So we did a lot of work while we were there. We were also just kind of busy getting ready for the upcoming wedding. We were there for my brother's wedding. We went around and got some food at some of our favorite local places. We got to go to Whataburger, which we always love. We went to a burrito place with my brother that we went to like in high school and stuff. So it was just fun. It was busy, but it was also kind of relaxing in a way. I don't know how to explain it, but it did go by in a total blur. And by the time we got to Friday, it was wedding festivities. So I put my email on my away message on, and we just focused on the wedding fully. On Friday, there was a lovely bridal luncheon. I got a picture. Actually, I got tons of pictures, but the one that I picked to show here is just of the desserts. They were really, really cute, really beautiful. So that was a whole lot of fun. And then that night we had the rehearsal dinner, and drinks at a really fun bar in downtown Nashville. So there's a picture of Kent and myself. I realized that I just don't have a lot of clothes anymore that I really enjoy wearing. I've also gotten rid of a lot of clothes. So I was out that morning shopping for this pink dress that I wore, and I really like it. So I'm really happy with that purchase. I also bought my shoes that I then wore at the wedding. So I had to do a lot of shopping. On Saturday was the wedding. It was just gorgeous. Kent and I were both in the wedding, so here we are wearing our wedding outfits. It was so great. It was just such a beautiful wedding. It was a quick ceremony. It was a lovely reception. It was all in one space in my sister-in-law's parents' backyard, which was just stunning. And we had a really fun day. Like, it was an early day. I think we had to be there at 9 for hair and makeup, but we just got to hang out. Like, I knitted a lot. We got to hang out while other people were getting their makeup done. Then I got my makeup and hair done. It looked great. And then we like had lunch, and then we did pictures before the ceremony. Oh my God. That was so smart. If you're planning a wedding and you don't mind seeing your future spouse before the wedding, highly recommend doing pictures before, because my brother and sister-in-law really seemed like they got to enjoy their wedding and like really get to talk to everybody, because we did all the pictures before. It was so great. Like, all the pictures were done. We just had to do a few like extended family pictures after the ceremony for people that had come in just for that. And then they got to go, like, I think they went up and like ate, and then they got to come and like be a part of everything. It was wonderful. They also had really great food, which I feel like you can't always say at a wedding. So that was great. And then we just danced and had a really fun time, and the weather was beautiful. So couldn't ask for a better wedding. On Sunday, I worked actually a lot. I was working on getting my yarn cozy pattern. Oh, that's something I forgot to mention. The mini yarn cozy pattern is out. We'll talk about it next week. But I worked on getting the mini crochet yarn cozy pattern out and all of the logistics that go with that. And then just, washing our clothes and repacking everything, and just I wanted just to have as much time as possible to just hang out with family before we left. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get the work done, I'm gonna get it packed and laundry done by 6 o'clock so we can just sit and enjoy and go to bed early, because we had an early day on Monday. We left about 5:30 in the morning from Tennessee and got here about 10:30 p.m. in New York. We drove because it's a lot cheaper to drive, and we can bring toaster with us that way, and we have a car while we're there. So we drove. I drove a little bit this time, but Kent drove most of the time. So I also did a lot of knitting in the car, which was really nice. But yeah, it was a long, long day. I think I'm still recovering because that was only 2 days ago. So yeah, back to reality here now in New York, and lots of stuff coming up. So again, no Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival this weekend. Definitely too much. I have been still reading on the book that I was reading last week, which was called Advika and the Hollywood Wives by Kirthana Ramisetti. I am still feeling about this book. I'm gonna finish it. I'm like 240 pages in, and I think I have another 100 or so to go. But last night I was trying to read it, and I just felt like nothing was absorbing. I just like wasn't in the mood. So I decided to start another book, and I'm just gonna read 2 books at the same time. One in the evening and one in the morning. So I started Murder Wears Mittens by Sally Goldenbaum. This is our membership book club book of the month for May, and it is a mystery around a person who knits, which is really fun. I just started it last night, so I'm gonna hold any reservations or any, I guess any observations until then. I'm liking it. So we'll see. It seems like a good like nighttime book to kind of read, kind of more fun and, calm down for the night. It's not like a heavy book or anything like that. So that's what I'm reading right now. And really, we haven't been watching much of anything. I guess I watched a lot of television with my parents, but it was all like shows that they watch and things. We were watching the Indian Matchmaking on Netflix, which is such a great show. I don't even know what else we were watching. It was a blur of a last week for sure. That brings us to our last segment, which is tip of the week. I have something a little different for you this week. It's not a tutorial or a technique. Instead, it is a shop that is new to me that I really want to share with you. So yesterday, I didn't see, this is all the things I'm forgetting. Yesterday, I met up with my friend Heather. It was so great. It was like such a great way to come home because I wasn't really, after you travel all day, it's hard to like get back up and get back into the work mode and everything. And so my friend Heather that lives in New Jersey was coming into the city, going to a conference nearby. And so she just asked, you know, do you want to get breakfast? And so we ended up getting breakfast at the coffee shop really close to me. And that was such a good way to, you know, again, stay motivated to actually get up, and like I had something to look forward to. And we knitted for about an hour and a half and ate our breakfast, which was so great. But the yarn that she was using was so beautiful. And so she was telling me about it, and it sounded really fascinating. She said it was from a shop where the person, they get these sweaters made out of wool or cashmere from thrift shops, and then they reclaim it. They, you know, pull the sweater apart, they rewind it. Her yarn wasn't wrinkly at all, so they must do something to like soak it and make it all nice again. And I don't know if they dye it or not, because when I was going through the shop, the yarn looks so beautiful. It all looks like the colors kind of go together, some beautiful solid colors, and it was just incredible. I thought, what a cool thing to have reclaimed yarn, to repurpose yarn instead of making something from scratch, and like take these sweaters that were, you know, whatever, you know, at the thrift shop, and then like turn them into something super beautiful. So I thought I would share that with you today, maybe even for inspiration to do that yourself if you want to. I've done it once before where I unwound a sweater, and I never did knit with it. It was a lot of work. So maybe shop from the shop. It is called Thoughtful Rose Supply, and they are on Etsy. You can go to the Etsy shop link. I'll put it down below. But just thank you, Heather, for sharing that with me. I just thought it was too cool not to share with others. Maybe you can find some beautiful yarn there. That's it for this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.